Good day. I'm William Garvey, editor-in-chief of Business and Commercial Aviation magazine. Today we're speaking with Bruce Landsberg, the retired head of the Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association Foundation and its Air Safety Institute. A pilot and flight instructor, Bruce has logged some 7,000 flying hours, most of them in light aircraft, and was installed this summer as vice chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. By way of full disclosure, decades ago, Bruce and I were colleagues at Flight Safety International and have been friends ever since. Bruce, considering your deep general aviation background, I'm wondering if that changes the focus or emphasis at all as to the way the board deals with general aviation matters going forward.
I think that's a fair question. Obviously, the board looks at things perhaps a little differently than the industry might, although I think all of us would agree that safety is critical for everybody because we don't want to be killing off customers and giving transportation a bad name. So my interest is still with general aviation, although it's now broadened to cover all modes of transportation. And there's particular areas that I think have impact for GA. I think we should be putting a lot more emphasis into gathering data on engine failures in piston engine aircraft. This tends to be one of the leading causes of fatalities and loss of control. And I think in the era of big data now and engine monitors, we should be able to gather a lot more information than what we are now currently doing. There needs to be some additional study on that.
I think the predominant, in reading reports over the years, the predominant causal factor in accidents in general is human failings. Do you think that will change based upon what you just said?
We always get to human failings because we build systems, we design systems, we maintain systems. And periodically, though, when NTSB goes out to investigate an accident in a light aircraft, there's not much left. Now it's getting a little better with, as I say, engine monitors, but you have a molten slag of metal that's buried 3 feet in the ground. It's pretty hard to figure out why something failed. With the ability now to measure exhaust gas temperatures and cylinder head temperatures, that's pretty standard these days, certainly on larger engines, and oil analysis and bore scoping and so forth. We are now starting to get the ability to be predictive in some of these areas. And that, to me, has a huge benefit in terms of being able to start being preventive on these kinds of things as opposed to trying to figure out what happened after the fact.
You mentioned being in the field. We all regularly see a member of the board with an NTSB blue jacket, at an accident site. I'm curious, because, again, of your background, if it's a general aviation accident involved, will you be the one likely to be sent to the scene, or does it work some other way? I have no idea how a board member winds up at an accident site.
The GO team assignments are typically made in advance. With 5 board members, we are assigned a week at a time to be ready to go at a moment's notice. So it sort of depends. I used to tease one of the other board members about being the new guy and always getting the bus accidents. That tends to be luck of the draw. So it just sort of depends on the timing. The other thing that goes into determining when we launch board members, that tends to be both objective and subjective. Obviously, we look at the severity of the accident and the amount of public interest as to whether we launch a board member or not. And I'm still learning how all of that works.
When a board member does launch, as you say, is the board member in charge of the investigation?
The board member is not in charge of the investigation. The investigator in charge, the IIC, by definition, is in charge. The board member is there merely to observe and to communicate with the media. And typically, we'll have some early information. We probably are not going to be able to make the instant analysis that today's media would like to have, but we'll be able to provide some insight as to what happened, and the details will, of necessity, have to come later.
When did you get your NTSB blue jacket?
Actually, there's a bit more than a blue jacket. There's an entire go bag, including a hard hat. There's a multiple-part parka, because sometimes you may be sent out to an accident in the middle of winter in the northern climates. So we literally have to be able to go where, when, and so forth. The other thing that was interesting was a special pair of boots, typically made of composite as opposed to steel toe, because if there's electricity involved, they really don't want you lighting your foot up or anything else.
When did you get fitted for all this stuff?
Pretty much shortly after I got to the board, and I'm still in the process of fine-tuning things, but my go bag sits right here in my office, and literally we have to be ready to go, and not always, but most of the time we'll use an FAA aircraft on the way out of Hangar 6 at National Airport.
And how long is your service?
The appointment is for 5 years, and as vice chair, I'm appointed for 2 years, and at that point, then I can go up the ladder or down the ladder as the president decides he wants to do. And going down, it's not really going down, it's sideways. Board members are all considered equal. One person has to manage the menagerie, if you will. But we are all independent animals, and if you watch some of the board meetings, as well as behind the scenes, you will see everybody comes with a slightly different perspective, which is actually a very good thing because it allows us to pretty thoroughly thrash things out. And we may not agree on points, but we hope that at least afterwards we can still talk to one another.
So there are 5 board members. Does there have to be a majority to decide a probable cause?
Yes, 3 votes is needed in order to adopt a probable cause. And we are allowed the opportunity to add concurring or dissenting statements. In the recent incident involving San Francisco, I added a concurring statement, although I don't fully agree with all of the recommendations that we made that I voted for. As I will be putting out in the blog here shortly, I think in some cases maybe we didn't go quite far enough, and in other cases maybe we overstepped a little. You know, you look for the best balance that you can get.
Just to clarify for listeners, the San Francisco incident was the Air Canada airplane that looked like it was going to land on a taxiway with aircraft waiting, right?
That is correct. And that report, it really is required reading for all pilots. That incident was literally within a matter of feet, had the potential of being larger than the Tenerife accident where 2 747s collided and there were just shy of 600 people killed in that. This had the potential of being larger, and we were literally only feet away. It's a perfect illustration of the accident chain playing out and just fortunately not getting to the final link.
I know that you had fully retired a couple of years ago. Are you surprised to be working full-time now yet again?
Well, I don't know about being surprised. Failing in retirement, I don't know, is a bad thing, as long as I still have the energy to do what needs to be done, and this is a fairly high-energy job. I enjoy it, and hopefully we'll be able to make a good contribution to all modes, not just to aviation. We are killing just shy of 40,000 people a year on the highways, and for some reason we seem to be okay with that. I look forward to a continued engagement with all kinds of people because it's fascinating, and the protection of human life, whether it's airborne or on the surface, is a pretty high calling.
We've been speaking with Bruce Landsberg, the new vice chairman of the National Transportation Safety Board. I'm William Garvey, editor of Business and Commercial Aviation magazine. Thank you for your time and your interest.